Welcome to Person. I'm Paula Todd. The life of Spider Jones is like the plot of a Charles Dickens novel. Young child, inescapable poverty, large family, fateful encounters with eccentric characters. When Spider Jones was 5, he shared a bed with 5 brothers. He was afraid of the dark and used to wet himself. He'd make it to school exhausted and smelling of urine. He had no friends, but he had dreams. He knew he wanted to be on the radio. Spider Jones became a championship boxer and literally fought his way out of the black ghetto. Today, the unbelievable victory of Spider Jones on Person to Person. From the time he was a child in the 1950s, Spider Jones longed to become a broadcaster, but his chances were extremely slim. He was black and uneducated. He'd led a gang. He'd been in prison for theft.
Because I've been there and done that. I've been to prison not once, not twice, but 3 times, and I'm doing okay now. And I believe there are a whole lot of people out there that are rehabilitated. It depends on what's in the heart.
Spider Jones was also a fighter, quick on his feet with a wicked left hook. The underground world of boxing brought him fast money and women, and eventually a chance to spar with the greats, Ali and Chevallo. But the dream of broadcasting remained elusive. Charles David Jones was born into a life of brutal poverty in Windsor, Ontario, where his parents struggled to raise 11 kids on a mailman's salary. He remembers sharing a single mattress with 5 brothers. And he remembers one frozen night in winter when a tragic family death traumatized his life forever. As a delinquent teen, he was sent to live with an aunt in Detroit. Riots lay ahead in the summer of 1967, and a great deal of trouble. His journey from bitter, scarred young man to successful motivational speaker and radio host is the basis of his upcoming book, Out of the Darkness. I spoke with Spider Jones at his home in Pickering. I'd like to go back and talk about growing up in Windsor, and I know it was very rough.
It was tough. We had a large family, a lot of that extended family, but we all slept in the same bed.
So how many people slept in that bed?
Well, on any given day, at least 6 in that bed. And then there was a crib for my baby brother over by the side. It was really tough because he was beautiful. I still remember a head full of black hair and these big brown eyes, and I used to play with him a lot. My mother said that we were very close. And I remember he got sick, and you could hear him at night wheezing away, fighting for his breath. I was woken up with this scream, the most agonizing scream, and I can still remember it to this day. And I remember her screaming and crying and just cuddling. I mean, the heartbreak. And then I remember my father came rushing in. And the next thing I heard, he broke down sobbing. There was this man that I pictured, so strong, so powerful. And he was crying like a baby. It was a heck of a loss. And about 3 hours later, some guy walks in the house. Looks like a gaunt, pale old man, like a Boris Karloff or a Bela Lugosi. He just looked frightening to me. And he was all dressed in black. He has this black bag in his hand, carrying bag. Walks in, doesn't acknowledge anybody, picks my brother's body up, and just puts it in the bag like he was a rag doll, and left.
The Undertaker.
And the Undertaker, I guess, you know, dying was how he made his living. But
to a 5-year-old like you, how do you make sense of all of that?
After that night, I had nothing but nightmares for years. And in the nightmares, that guy took me, threw my body in a bag, took me down to the Undertaker's and threw me in a coffin. And I remember a couple days after Dennis died, we all went to the funeral home and we saw him in this little coffin. And then they're telling me he's gone to be with a better place. He's in heaven. He's with somebody called the Lord. And even at 5, I'm thinking, hey, if he's gone to a better place, why all this grieving going on? Why are you crying?
Is that part of the reason you're so afraid of the dark?
Well, that was one of the reasons. I think it was the main one. I used to lay awake at night after that. Lay awake, frightened to go to sleep, because when I went to sleep, the nightmares began.
Did you ever tell anybody you were doing this?
No. No, I didn't. I never told anybody that I was scared of the dark. I think I may have said it to my mother and father a couple times, but there's not a lot they could do. I mean, they had to get sleep. My mother was raising all these kids, and she had everything else to do. My father was up before the sun and not home till after it set.
So you weren't sleeping most of the night, and you were afraid to get up and go to the bathroom, so you were peeing in the bed?
I just lay there awake until my kidneys burst, and then I just let it go. Another reason, too, was the fact that we lived about a block from a big dairy, and there was sewer rats everywhere.
Did you ever get up and find a rat?
Yes, many a night. You'd go out to the kitchen, and you'd turn on the light, and you'd see rats. They're vicious. I was scared to death to get up, so I just peed the bed. And for peeing the bed, back then, you got a licking. So I knew it. So I'm laying in bed at night now. Man, if I pee the bed, I'm going to get a whipping from my mother. What do I want worse? So what I'd do the next morning, I got to the point where I would get up real quick after my dad got up and went to work, get up in that house, pull up my pants over my underwear, and go to school.
Your underwear, which were probably still wet?
Yes. And after a couple days of that, you're very unpleasant to be around. So that led to other things.
Like?
People made fun of me.
What did they call you?
Stinky, funky. Forget the racial slurs. They came too. The buckwheat, the coon, spook, spear chucker, nigger, all that stuff. But being made fun of, I remember one day in class, teacher used to come down the aisles reading, and we'd sit there and listen. And one day she was just passing my desk, and she said, "What is that horrid smell?" And I remember it was the most embarrassing moment I could remember. And I hated myself. I remember sometimes I should look in the mirror at myself and cry and punch myself in the face. Just punch myself. I hated me so much. But anger towards others, I wanted to strike out, but I was small, frail, sickly. I had 2 bouts with pneumonia. I was just a small, frail, skinny kid. My legs were so skinny, you had to tie knots in them to make knees. I mean, that's how skinny I was back then.
What's the first fight you remember getting into as a kid?
Red Turner. They used to bully me, constantly bully me, since I was in kindergarten. And I just exploded one day. And I turned back on him, and we got into it. And my father had been giving me boxing lessons. And I just ran into him, rammed him with left jabs and right hands, and I just kept going. My dad just used to tell me, throw until, just throw and just keep throwing, and I did that. And his nose was bleeding, and I had him down, and I was getting ready to really work him over, all that anger, all that bitterness. And I felt these hands, these strong arms grab me and fling me off him. It was the teacher. I was immediately taken down to the principal's office, and I was strapped 10 times on each hand.
I mean, it's almost a cliche, isn't it?